Greetings and welcome back to the Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, where we were out here with our little sheep and it's getting close to shearing season. So we're working through preparing, washing, carding some of the previous year's wool. And I just thought it would be kind of fun to introduce you to these sheep. This is baby Sweet Pea, and she's cute.
Basket's behind you.
Oh, this is baby, oh, there we go. His name is Basket because we had to warm him up on a really cold day in a laundry basket. Hi, Basket. Okay, Sweet Pea's done. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Off we go, Sweet Pea.
Buckwheat is trying to.
And their dad, Buckwheat the Ram, is trying to knock the camera over.
Okay, that's...
Hun, actually move that, please. The first step in working with this wool is, obviously, washing it. For that, we don't need anything fancy. We need some sort of detergent. Now, there are arguments over there of what is the, in air quotes, correct detergent. I use dish soap. I've heard comments from people that they hate dish soap. They think they add some that left some sort of residue. I've heard the same set of comments from, I use laundry soap and I hate using laundry soap. Just tinker and pick one. Okay, it's not that critical. It's not that important. But you do need something in there to cut the lanolin. The quantity and strength of detergent that you will need will depend on how greasy your fleeces are. I am using my flock, all of the females are Navajo Churro, and then the sire is a Katahdin. I've talked about that cross and the reasons for it in previous videos in the genetic series. Like, we talk about that a lot, you know, how I'm trying to reverse some genetic damage to the stock that I have available in my area with an outcross. But neither of those are really greasy breeds. Okay, neither of them are. So I don't need that much soap, and I've already put just a little squirt, as though I was going to do a pan of dishes in here. That's all you need. The water needs to be cold, and it really truly does need to be cold. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cold water doesn't cut grease as well as hot water, and you're 100% correct. But cold water also doesn't felt the wool as badly as hot water does. And if your goal is to come out with a free-flowing wool that can be carded, spun, or felted, you don't want it to pre-felt and turn into a giant lump in the washing process. And if you use hot water, that's going to happen. So this wants to be as cold as you can get it. I don't go to the extreme of putting ice cubes in it or anything like that, but, you know, tap water cold. Right? Don't use hot water. I've already put the soap in there, just a squirt. Now, the next thing we want to look at is the fleece itself. So when I'm shearing these guys, if there's any really nasty patches, I leave that in the pasture for the birds to play with. Okay, I don't, you know, put that in the box with the rest of the fleece. But as I'm pulling this into pieces that are going to go into my bucket, I still want to look and see if there's anything there. And I'm going to give them a shake, try and knock loose any of the free vegetable matter. If you read anything that any sort of, you know, fiber arts forum, they'll talk about VM for vegetable matter. It's just leaves and straw and seeds and all the random stuff that gets mixed into these fleeces. Okay, so anything that we can shake out now is stuff that will not become entrained and cause problems later. So that is to our advantage. Well, this is pretty clean. I'm just going to pull that off. Give it a good old shake. Also, this will get rid of any second cuts if you have them, which are little short pieces. Like, here's these little nubbins of really short fleece. Those won't card well and will spin even worse. So they want to blow away in the breeze. That's fine, that can go in. So every time you're working with this fleece, you're going to be pulling little bits off. And every time it's going to get just a little bit cleaner. Every time you touch it, a little bit more of this vegetable matter is going to fall out, get combed out, wash out, etc. Now, as we get this in, we want to push it down in, but don't take your hand and start doing a whole bunch of this, right? That will felt it. You can do, like the first piece I push down, I'll do that once, just kind of mix the soap a little bit. That's it. Don't felt your fleece. Okay? The finer the wool, the easier it is to felt. And that's the finest, that's going to be determined by the finest wool in the fleece. Like these guys are double coated. So what's going to felt up is the finer undercoat more than the outer coat. But that'll still turn it into uncartable lumps.
That's such a pretty fleece.
Yeah, this is one of our crossbreeds, and I am absolutely astonished at how nice some of these crosses are. How fine some of this wool is. Now this one's a little kempier than a couple of them. Like you see some of these things from like their withers where they get pre-felted just from life. That will just pick out. That's why we want to go over it a little bit. Like that. That's just a mucky felted bundle. That can be for the bunny nests and the birds. We want to take care of the bunnies and the birds too. They matter. Like, there's a good example, right? That's kind of half pre-felted. Very, very, very kempy. This is right from the withers, right around the base of the tail. And also it's really, kind of mucky because it's right around the base of the tail. So that can just come out. That's not going to make anything any better. The churros, they do have a big change from the tail to the head. You have all of your Kemp and coarse stuff down by the tail, and then it gets really nice up closer to the head and the back. But they like to itch themselves on things, so right across the back of the shoulders often they'll kind of felt that, and that's a little clump that gets pulled out. Push it down, straight in.
It's so dirty.
It's so, oh yeah, you'll be amazed at what comes out of these. Push it in, but don't agitate it. Okay? Now, all those little fuzz balls, those are second cuts. That's a shearing error. This is one of those holes that she rubbed in her fleece, itching herself. But that's pretty clean. This is up by the shoulders. Much softer and less kempy than those pieces down by the butt. I might separate out some of those when I go to card this. And a lot of this straw that's kind of entrained in between the locks, that'll come out in the carding. But still, any that wants to shake out now is a good thing. That's junk. That's a nice piece. That's a nice piece. That's a nice piece. All the rest of that is junk. Okay. Now, as I was saying, I am absolutely astonished at how soft the wool from these crosses are. When I got our ram and made this cross initially, I thought, well, they'll make a strong, healthy sheep. And then 3 or 4 generations down the line, I'll be able to fix the wool.
Didn't need to.
Didn't need to. Yeah, this stuff has its own value. It's fine. And it's got it preserved a lot of the luster from the parents. I'm really curious now about doing an experimental cross between these half-breeds and Gotlands. It might be interesting. Sometimes you just have to try something and see. But normally crossing a wool sheep and a hair sheep is fairly disastrous to the wool. But this one went really, really well. I don't know if that's typical or if it's just the random ram that we had some recessive traits that are
Awesome.
coming back out and super awesome, but I'm happy.
Well, he's an awesome boy anyways.
He's a puppy sheep. He wags his tail when you pet him. We love our puppy sheep.
And sometimes he comes for hugs.
Yep. And so we just have our sheep, our sheep. Well, it's half a sheep. So we have our fleece in the water, and you can see the dirt already starting to come out of it. So this is the soak, the first soak. Just press it down once and let it go. And we just want to break all of that dirt loose. This sits in this bucket till this evening. It's a little before lunchtime now, and I'll let this sit in the bucket until this evening in this first soak. Then I'll show you how I'm going to rinse it. It's late afternoon. It's a little after 6 o'clock. I put this in the bucket of soap. Oh, what was it, hon? It was about 10-ish, 10 noon, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, late morning. So it's been about a half a day soaking here in the soap. And now we're just going to transfer this to a bucket of clean water. So this is the step where you really kind of need to be a little bit gentle so that we don't felt this too much again. But we do need to squeeze out all of that mucky, dirty water. Otherwise, we're not really going to get a good rinse. Okay? So I just hold it, give it one good squeeze, let it run back down into the dirty bucket, and just kind of let the tube of wool migrate its way over to the clean water bucket. Okay? Now, and in it goes. And then we can push it down just like we did before, but that's all we're going to do. Now, there's an instinct you have to fight. A lot of folks are going to want to be, oh, I didn't get all of that out, and I want to wring it, and I want to make sure they don't transfer any dirt from one to the other. I want to get it perfect. You can't do that. Okay? You cannot be a neat freak with this process. You just cannot do it. It will not work. If you actually start wringing that out, you're just going to felt it into a tube and ruin the entire hide. Okay? We're working with natural materials, we're working with raw wool, and because we're accepting that we're working with raw wool, we're accepting that it's not going to be 100% clean. Okay, there's more steps, there's more processing. But this is how we go through it. Again, if you see something that you can pick out, pick it out. Everything you get out now is one thing that you won't have to worry about at a later step. But just give it one squeeze, and one squeeze only, at any particular location, and then move it across. Okay? And there's a big clump that we don't want, so we can pull that out. Keep going with it. One squeeze at each location. Okay. And this is a split the difference, right? We want it clean enough that it's reasonable to work with, but we're accepting that it's not going to be as clean as laundry from the laundromat, and that's okay. One squeeze in the bucket. And try not to agitate it as we're moving it around the buckets. That's why I like to have my second bucket right beside me so it can go right in it. And that's about it. wispies there. Don't know if those are second cuts or not, but I can't see that when they're wet. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to press it down, just like before, and let it sit, just like before. Now, this I will let sit in the rinse water overnight. I'm not going to move it, well, I'll move it inside, but other than just picking up the bucket, I'm not going to move it, slosh it, agitate it, stir it, or fuss with it. Okay? And then, when this is finished, I will pull it out and squeeze it once, just like I did here, and then drape it across, not this literal box, but I will drape it across some cooking racks or a box with some holes cut in it, or put it on a towel and then change the towels every couple of hours, right? Just set it out, set it flat, and allow it to dry. Once it's dry, we'll card it, and I'll show you that next. This is a drum carder. Now, there's quite a few ways to do the final cleaning and comb the last of the vegetable matter out of the wool. The oldest school method that still works is to take locks, and again, anytime you can pick something out with your fingers, do so. I just have a trash bag right here to put it in, and as I'm doing, is to take this, hold the base, and then take a literal comb and just comb through it. Okay, you can get handheld carding combs with this carding cloth on them, or you can get a drum carder. Which of those makes the most sense has a lot to do with what scale you're working. If you're just doing a couple of skeins of yarn for a hobby, just combing it might make sense, right? If you're doing a fleece every now and again, maybe I'll do a fleece this year and it's not going to be a couple years till I do another fleece as a hobby, get carding combs, okay? But we have a small flock, and this drum carder really speeds it up enough that it's practical to process a couple dozen sheep worth of wool in a year's time. Okay, more than that, and you're going to be selling the wool to a commercial processor. Okay, which is the fourth scale, industrial. But this is a really nice compromise for a small flock between something that just takes so long, like hand carding combs, and sending it out for commercial processing. This fits that gap very nicely. Now, this is manual. The hand crank is on the other side here. Okay. And these two barrels move in opposite directions. That's just a little bit of second cuts that I found. Pick it out, throw it away. Each of these has this carding cloth with these little metal fingers. And those metal fingers, they're not straight, they're bent. Okay? And they're springy, so they flick when they move past each other. So this drum is rotating away from me, and the metal fingers come up and flick that way. So they're trying to flick matter away. Okay. This drum, the smaller drum, rotates toward me, and its middle fingers come up and then point forward toward me. So again, they're flicking against each other like that as they move past. Okay. And that works to first disenmesh the partially felted fibers that are kind of trying to cling to each other, right? So this counter flicking action will pull those apart and straighten them out. And second, as they're doing it, they'll flick large quantities of the vegetable matter free. Okay, so this is that final cleanup of the dry wool. Now, this isn't something that's automatic, right? I have to move this crank and feed it the wool, and it's going to build up on this drum, and then when it's done, you see this gap in the teeth, you remove the wool from this gap, and then remove the bat by hand, okay? The one criticism I have of the design of these that's available is that the clamps don't work very well. So I have extra clamps holding it to the table, and it still kind of needs some down pressure because there's no clamp in the back, so it wants to pick up a little bit, right, like that. But that's okay. It's very manageable, and I've carded a whole lot of wool with this thing. So we take our piece of wool and feed it in, and you want to, I'm using the back of my hand for some down pressure on this inlet plate, and I'm holding onto the wool with my fingers so that the drum has to pull it out, and that's where you get that straightening, and that pulls the locks apart. And I like to feed it onto the bottom of the near reel, but you can also feed it into the top, and it will have the same action. Okay. And that's a good piece. Okay. It will still do the same thing, but I don't think it works as well. And every time you feed a bit on, and you're going to go back for another handful of wool, spin it a dozen or so times, and that will help flick out the little bits of vegetable matter that are sitting on the surface. Okay? Because it does a lot. It removes a lot of stuff, but it doesn't remove bits of material that are sandwiched in between other layers of wool. So when it comes to the surface, you want to spin it a few times to flick that away before you put more on. And then you just keep feeding it until the large reel has its teeth fully embedded in the wool. Okay? And when that happens, it'll start to get harder to crank. You'll feel a difference. And you'll see how these little bits here are kind of matting up on top and not settling down in as well. Okay? That's what tells you that the reel is full. Now, as I said, this does a very good job of flicking away huge quantities of vegetable matter, but some still gets entrained. So I always card my bats twice. To remove it, we'll just take this. This came with this when I got it. It's just a knitting needle with a wooden handle. Don't think you need to go buy this as an actual tool. All you need is a knitting needle or a bone awl or a wooden dowel that you've filed a little bit to a point, right? You don't need anything fancy. And then we pick the bat up off of the large reel, and this will slide in between the teeth and help it release. Now you can only do this in one direction, because remember the teeth are pointing away from you, so you have to go with the teeth. If you try to do this in the other direction, no bueno, right? You just get a mess. Okay. We'll turn it. Remove our bat. This fleece is just astonishingly soft, again, for the hybrid mix that we're working with. No kemp whatsoever, really. It is a lamb fleece. We'll see what her fleece looks like this year.
I don't think it'll change that much.
Well, the lamb fleece is often a little softer than adult fleece, but this is from Petunia, so she's a very soft sheep in general. So that's what our bat looks like. I mean, you can see the top, where it's been flicked clean really well, is very, very clean. But if we look at the bottom, there's still quite a bit of vegetable matter in there. Okay? And that's because the the first round, a lot of that stuff likes to get stuck in the teeth too and kind of stick to the bottom of your bats. So, again, this is where we do a second run. So we can just tear the bat into strips and now feed these strips in. Just as we were before. And again, just like before, I'm holding it a little bit back from the teeth. There's a little stick that I'm pulling out. Hold it back from the teeth and force the reel to catch those fibers and pull them. Straightens them out. If I get a clump like that, I'll stop and pull that off as best as I can and then feed it back in. Because those clumps, it won't flick clean. It has to go, the fibers have to go on well separated in order to flick clean. But that first carding, you can see a huge difference already between this nice, straight, easy to work with bat and the lumpy mess that we started with, this stuff. So we'll draft that on, we'll draft the whole bat back on, and then I'll show you the finished thing. That whole bat has been fed through again. We will take off the final bat, and I mean, you can kind of already see here in the smoothness of this just how much nicer it gets every time you run this through. I usually just do 2. If something's really messy and you need to break it up a little bit more, there's no reason you couldn't do more than 2. And if something is really, really clean and smooth to begin with, you might not need to. That's okay. It comes off a lot easier, it goes on a lot easier, and it's a whole lot cleaner. Just give me a second to get this all off of this drum. Sometimes when they hold together really well, you can just kind of take this and peel it off, but most of my fleeces need a little bit of coaxing. There's a thicker spot, and that's peeling well. There we go. That was very cooperative. But before I finish, I mean, you can see how much smoother. This is the back side where you're going to get most of the buildup of, junk if it's going to happen. And you can see how much smoother, neater, and cleaner all of this is. And for, something to go to spinning, for further processing, you'll lose even more of that vegetable matter just in the process of spinning or whatever else you do. If you're going to felt it, it's going to get washed again with the hot water that you used to felt it. So that's where I quit. If you wanted it absolutely 100% clean, like I said, you could of course do it another time or two on that barrel. That's just my garbage bag. And I want to take this off here for just a second, unclamp this tool, so you can see just what we have taken out. And I cleaned, some of this is from some earlier fleeces, but I pretty much clean this every bat. So yeah, that's how much stuff that we are getting out of these chunks of wool. So that can all go into the trash bag, and our nice new fleece can go into a box ready to be used for the project of our choosing. I wanted to take a quick second here and mention that we are an unsponsored, unmonetized YouTube channel. And I am so grateful for all of the folks that have joined us on Patreon already, and would love to invite you to do so as well. There are a ton of resources, and it's going to continue to grow as we go forward in the Patreon digital store. Documents that Many are historic documents that have been reworked, redigitized for easy printing. There's plans and patterns. There's information of all sorts, and it's going to keep growing as we work along and do more things together. Those digital resources are available, as a for sale as a download. But I'd much rather have a community of folks interacting with each other on the Patreon, so they are free to all patrons at any of the paid levels, even just $1 a month. And the $1 a month is the lowest that Patreon would let me work with. I tried to make a penny a month and it said, no, go away. You have to be $1 a month. So, not trying to put up any high barriers, but I would love to build a community there. So I hope that you come and join us. Now, before we part company, I wanted to show you the final results of all of this. This is the batch of wool. Is this in view good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. I'll try to sneak around the side. This is the batch of wool from Smudgy, the beautiful little lamb from last year that we washed in the first part of this video. So you can see how it comes out. Nice and clean, but still with lots of vegetable matter in it. And this is the first bat of wool that I carded from Smudgy's first fleece. The color is a nice light brown for the bulk of it. That's the underdown. And these sheep are really interesting. They're triple coated. They have an underdown and guard hair. In this one, it's a little hard to tell the difference between the underdown and the guard hair. And then some have a bit of kemp and some don't. This one, Smudgy has a little bit of kemp in it that is a much darker brown than the rest of the background. So it's got a speckling to it, which is really quite pretty. And this one is dropping the vegetable matter very, very well. This is very, very clean bat that would be great for a felting project. So we're going to keep carding this out. I also wanted to show you the completed batch from Petunia, also one of last year's lambs. So this is her whole fleece carded out. This is much softer and doesn't really have any kemp whatsoever in it, which is wonderful. It's a much finer fiber, much softer and fluffier. But because of the crossing in it, it's got quite a bit of crimp, which wants to hold on to the vegetable matter a lot more. So hybrids are weird. You get a lot of variability when you're working with a cross, but from the perspective of somebody who intends to use their own wool, that's not a disadvantage, right? That's a good thing, okay? And I wanted to show you, we haven't talked about this on the video yet, but this box of wool that I'm grabbing, this is from Blaze, who is actually Petunia's mom, and this is part of her second year fleece, but you'll be able to see in here the length of these guard hairs. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a very long staple from finger to finger there. Mostly dark brown, but with the white coming in, and this is normal for most of the dark colored churros. They'll kind of they go gray. Starting in year 2, they start going gray, and they get lighter and lighter every year. Not so much because the wool is getting lighter, but they're getting a higher percentage of white fibers. That's typical, and so that you can see the difference. I have Blaze's baby fleece here, and I'm not going to pull up the whole thing, but this is some of Blaze's baby fleece. Much shorter staple, much finer, and a whole lot less of the white fibers. So they're color change sheep as they mature. This one is pretty similar in texture to the fleece that we watched, okay, but doesn't have as much kemp. She did pick up some kemp from the Katahdin cross. But very lovely animals, very lovely materials, and all of these are useful. The finer ones, like Petunia's baby fleece here, that can get spun up for anything next to the skin. This is a wonderful next to the skin fleece. And then the coarser stuff, come on, mothball, get in there. We've been fighting wool moths here. We have an old ways rising moth factory here in this last couple of weeks. But But this longer staple coarser stuff is very, very durable, very good for rugs, which is, kind of the original purpose of the churro breed was weaving rugs. Of course, there's many other things you can work with it too, but you can think also any kind of outerwear, sweater, jacket that's going to be exposed to the elements and walking through brush. This is a wonderful wool for that sort of durable goods. And the halfway in between, you could think of, semi-durable, right? A hat that you're not going to scrape up too bad. And also, if you were going to felt out, make a sheet of felt that would then be a lining, in a jacket, right? That's a common traditional way to make a jacket is is a soft cloth and then a bat of wool that's been felted and then an outer layer of canvas for durability. That's a traditional way to make a jacket. A lot of military ultra cold weather jackets have been made that way. So there's a range of wools coming from our beautiful little babies out there and a range of uses. And I'm really curious because Petunia has some shedding characteristics that she inherited from the Katahdin ancestry. And I'm really interested to see what her second year fleece is going to be, if it stays as soft or if it gets a little coarser and goes more into the felting category. So time will tell. A couple weeks we'll be shearing, and I hope that we'll see you next time here at Old Ways Rising.